The big reveal. Ladies and gentlemen and Kickstarter backers, Scapula, the greatest freak show of all, is finally here. For those of you who filled out your surveys and have been waiting oh so patiently, you'll be happy to know the books are on their way right now. For those of you who didn't participate in the Kickstarter to fund this book, but would still like to get a copy of it anyway, general sales will begin this October, just in time for the Halloween season. Please head on over to the Scapula store, or ask your local comic book store if they'd be interested in carrying Scapula. Today we are going to be doing a quick run-through of all 9 books. Let's have some fun. Let's begin with Scapula Volume 1, Losers Never Quit. This is the very beginning of the series, collecting the original 2007 zine and the first 2 years of the webcomic run when it was updating on Sundays. This is also the roughest book in the series, in that I was young, I was dumb, I was still learning how to draw properly, and a lot of this stuff is pretty rough. So it's really only for the completists, for those of you who need to have every single book in a collection, and God bless you all because that helps me out a lot too. My personal favorite story in this book is Gang Way, which was very heavily inspired by Dick Tracy and a lot of the classic comic serials, Scapula and Gemini, as they take on the most dangerous gangster in the neighborhood. For those of you who need to have everything in a collection or would just like to know how it all began, here it is for you. Next up is Scapula Volume 2, Fear the Failure. Volume 2, I think, is where the series really starts to find its tone. This is the volume where we properly introduce the sinister monster Doom Legion, who are being led by the most powerful enemy ever, Dark Evil Hell Death Man, a killer sock puppet. He was a bastard! This also contains one of my very favorite stories of the early run, which is called Bone China. Introducing the soap opera element was something I don't think I was quite ready for in the first couple of years, but I decided to dive headlong into it with the first romantic tale. For those of you who like broken hearts and a little extra gothiness, you'll find it in plenty in Volume 2. Scapula, World's Worst Villain. After 4 years of doing the webcomic as a Sunday-only feature, I took the big step forward and started updating the comic 4 days a week. This was an insanely huge schedule, and I must have been completely insane for doing it. But you know what? It happened, I survived, and a lot of new readers started coming in around this point. Increasing the update schedule meant that there was finally room for character development, have the characters' personalities bounce off of each other in a way that couldn't have been done before. The reunion of Scapula and the sinister monsters as they take on some of their most powerful enemies, including a feminist hit group who has every reason in the world to hate disgusting boys. This also has another romantic plot with Scapula and a stoner hippie, and also introduces Scapula's army of punk rock messed up kids, the Halloween Gang. For those of you who skipped the first 2 volumes because of the roughness, I totally understand, but for those of you who are getting introduced to Scapula for the very first time and are looking for the best book to start it off with, I would actually recommend World's Worst Villain. Scapula Memento Mori. Very gothy. This book is notable for 2 reasons. Number 1, it is the largest book in the Scapula series at 175 pages. Number 2, it is the rarest book in the Scapula series. I had originally planned to fund Memento Mori with another Kickstarter around 2015, but unfortunately the amount of funds I would have had to have raised to publish a book this large, along with coming pretty closely on the heels to the Kickstarter for World's Worst Villain, meant that it wasn't really feasible. As a result, I had to go with a much smaller print company to do a very, very small run, and that print company is now gone, meaning that the stock I have of Memento Mori is very limited. This one contains a single story that runs all the way through it, and it's one of my very favorite. We have Scapula having to deal with both the return of Bone China, but also having to deal with his new relationship to the deviant clone of Gemini. Memento Mori remains a personal favorite volume, and I hope you'll like it too, but better grab it soon because it's almost gone. Scapula and the Sinister Monster Doom Legion. So after the insane webcomic schedule that was frying my brain and wearing my drawing arm down to a nub, I decided to take a different course of action. After spending a year of beefing up my drawing skills, I came back roaring with the special one-shot issue that was done in time for the Scapula 10th year anniversary. Sinister Monster Doom Legion was a celebration of everything that inspired me in the first place. Comic books, monster movies. We start off with Horror in the Wax Museum, a throwback to classic horror comics such as Tales from the Crypt, leading up to Giant Attack Monsters Mega Battle, a celebration of all the giant monster movies that I have loved so very much, from King Kong to Godzilla, every city-smashing, building-crushing monster. Whether you're a longtime reader or a scrappy little kid looking to join in, Sinister Monster Doom Legion is just for you.
Scapula, doubly dark and deadly.
Like the previous issue, this was a magazine-sized one-shot that was designed for both new readers and longtime friends. This one, however, takes inspiration from a lot of the alternative lifestyles that I had started discovering back in my 20s. Whether it was things like goth culture, punk rock culture, gay and trans culture, a lot of that I wanted to incorporate in here. This book is also notable in that it focuses mainly on the female cast. Scapula himself is actually not in it all that much. Rock'em Knock'em Punks, which is a tale about Scapula's protege Nas, Gemini's copycat counterattack with the return of Gemini and the introduction of a brand new character or characters, Diosukri the Copycat, Dominion, all of Scapula's lovers, the women he's obsessed over, and what would happen if they all came together. For all of you strange, weird kids out there with a little too much makeup, you're my kind of people, and hopefully you'll enjoy this book too.
Dr. Caliban and the Sinister Monster Doom Legion.
You guys remember 2020? And that little thing that happened that affected the entire friggin' planet? Yeah, that sucked. During that time, most of us were stuck indoors with not a lot of money to spend and a little too much time on our hands. As a result, it was really not a good place for me to be doing things like Kickstarters or funding large runs of books, so I decided to take a different course of action. During this time, I had used my skills as a storyboard artist to create a semi-animated series focusing on Dr. Caliban and the Sinister Monsters. This book contains the storyboards from all 3 episodes along with a bonus comic. This book is currently only available on Amazon, which maybe makes things easier for those of you who are addicted to buying stuff through there, and for those of you who still want to support this artist, please contact me and we'll find a way to ship you a copy. Bone-chilling Tales of Scapula. Like the other Amazon release book, this one was done in a much different style than the usual comics. Bone-chilling Tales of Scapula collects a lot of prose stories that I had done for my Patreon backers during COVID. These were originally meant to be exclusive just for them, but my Patreon backers are some of the coolest people ever, and they totally gave me permission to let all of you see these books, so I want to give a very special thank you to all of them. Scapula's weird pulpy thing, Mystery of the Masked Mollusk, where Scapula and a new love interest, Margot Jagarundi, take on a new batch of baddies. Scapula and the Secret Toy Box, a previously unknown ally of Scapula who suffers from mental illness. This was another heartfelt story with a bit of a tragic end, and hopefully that's not too much for all of you out there. Once again, a very special thank you to my Patreon backers, and once again, I hope all of you will enjoy this book as well. Finally, Scapula, the greatest freak show of all. This is a book that I've been waiting for years to see come out, and now that it's finally here, I am so very happy. I am so very grateful also for all of you out there who are watching this video, because chances are you contributed to the campaign which made this book collection possible. Thank you so very much, Creepy Kids, once again for your support, and I hope you'll enjoy this volume just as much as I enjoy drawing it, because we're all a little nuts. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.